AEW Revolution weekend in Orlando, Florida. They're taking over Orlando.
Yeah,
and who better to
we
take
doing
over
it.
Orlando with AEW than Powerhouse Hobbs? Yes,
Appreciate you having me on. I appreciate you having me, man.
it is going to be so much fun. For you, what is it like when a big event like this? Basically, we've got Friday night AEW Rampage on TNT from Additions Financial Arena at University of Central Florida, Orlando. Saturday, we've got the AEW FanFest, also at UCF. Then that night is AEW's first live music show at the venue at UCF. And then the payoff, the main event, AEW Revolution pay-per-view on FITE TV, Bleacher Report Live, also from the Addition Financial Arena at UCF, again in Orlando. What is it like to have these big shows and big events and being a part of all this?
It's unbelievable. I've dreamt of doing things like this as a child, and so now I'm actually living it and doing it. It's unbelievable. Just the people you meet doing these things from all across the world, all across the United States is it's incredible.
Well, Powerhouse Hobbs, we've got to talk about your match because this is
The match that I'm going to win, right?
the match that you're going to win, and not only win, but then go after the TNT title and win that. And they're going to have to make Powerhouse Hobbs. They're going to have to make a bigger title because you're so big, you're so strong, you're so massive.
You know, I'm gonna do it like how Tyson used to do it. Just wear it over my shoulder, you know.
Hey, this is going to be a really cool match. It's the face of the Revolution ladder match. And tell us about your thoughts going into this match. And there's plenty of beef in this match too.
It is. I mean, my thought hasn't changed. The match is going to be unpredictable. You can't do any type of studying for these matches. It's just going to be wild and crazy. I mean, it's going to be brutal. Bodies are going to be everywhere. You just got to keep your head on the swivel and take advantage of any opportunity you can get. Because all it takes is a split second for someone to climb that ladder.
You also got Keith Lee in there, Wardlow,
Yep,
Orange Cassidy, and then someone you're very familiar with.
Yeah, so I'm very close with.
Tell us about Team Taz and that other combatant, that really good wrestler that's in this as well.
You know, we got my man, Absolute Ricky Starks, the FTW champion. His goal is to climb that ladder and win. That's my goal too. So, you know, I think everybody thinks there's going to be some type of issues between me and Ricky. He wants to win, I want to win. So there's no issue there.
Also, I want to talk about Keith Lee, Wardlow, and Orange Cassidy. Just what are your thoughts of them as competitors? And talk a little bit as well about the brutality of being a part of a ladder match. And is this the first time you've been a part of a ladder match?
Yes, it is. My very first time in a ladder match. All the three of those guys you mentioned, Wardlow, Keith Lee, Orange Cassidy, all great competitors. If they weren't, they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be in this type of match. So, you know, nothing against them, but my goal is to take everyone out and climb that ladder and win. And the brutality of it.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
You go. There's no way you can prepare for this type of match. Your body's going to be hurt. You're going to be bruised, maybe injured. That's just the expectations going into these matches. You know, I like to believe that all of us in this match are we have some type of superhuman strength or ability, or we wouldn't be in this type of match. And it may take some years off your life, but you know, that's what we do. Sacrifice is what we want. So I don't think there's going to be any complaints from anyone.
Do you look back at some of the ladder matches, and you can go back as far as Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels, and that was like one of the original ladder matches that put ladder matches on the map. I don't know how much of a fan as far as looking back at older footage, but are you familiar with that, or do any ladder matches come up?
Yeah, I mean, the very first ladder match that I saw was the Razor Shawn. I can believe that kind of like set the foundation and the standard for ladder matches, as we seen over the years. Each ladder match that's been on mainstream has gotten bigger and better, and that's not going to be any different with this ladder match. And it's going to be different.
I'm interested because you are the strength that you possess and what you show, and just when you hear the fans oohing and ahhing, and the AEW fans are just tremendous. They really get behind everybody. Do you take more pride outpowering somebody like a Keith Lee or Wardlow, or is it more fun throwing somebody around like a Orange Cassidy, someone smaller? Do you get more out of it going head to head with a power guy, or do you like more being able to showcase and throw the lighter guys around?
I like doing it both, to be honest with you. I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit. I know I'm a big bad dude, and I like to think I can outpower anybody. So it's going to get someone that's my size or bigger. I'm all for it. As far as throwing somebody around, that's fun for me. I think one thing I haven't got to showcase, or maybe a glimpse of it, is my speed. I'm 269 pounds, and I'm fast, believe it or not.
How did you get the Powerhouse nickname?
Look at me. Look at me.
I know why you're Powerhouse, but I'm just wondering.
Look at me.
Was it something that you came up with, or did someone else come up with it?
It's something Tony Khan looked at me and said. He knew that I was a fan of Hacksaw Butch Reed, and Butch Reed was a fan of mine. And Tony and we sat down and watched some footage of Butch Reed from Mid-South together, and just that one name, when people thought of Butch Reed, they called him Hacksaw. And and look at me, what do you think? Powerhouse. So that's kind of my little homage to Butch Reed.
Let's also delve into Team Taz, because that's an unbelievable collection. What is it like being a part of that group, and also being under the tutelage of Taz, ECW original, pro wrestling great?
Taz is the man. Taz is something that I like to call. He likes to shoot straight forward. He doesn't pull any punches. When you're right, you're right. When you're wrong, you're wrong. But he's the type of dude that will break down footage to you, let you know your mistakes. Just being a fan of him, like growing up, is like being under his learning tree is amazing. I have weekly conversations with him, just like he has conversations with Ricky and obviously his son Hook. So he breaks everything down for us. But being in this group I like to call this group a pot of gumbo, because we all add a little different spice and seasonings to this group. Not one of us is the same. Ricky isn't the same as me. Hook isn't the same, all the way around. So.
And what is it like with Hook, Taz's son? He's so young. He has an athletic background. I believe it was lacrosse.
Yeah. D1
player. He was
Division
really
1.
good. Really good at lacrosse, and he's very athletic. And is he a chip off the old block, so to speak, as far as Taz's son?
He is. You take a look at him, you can see Taz. There's so many matches in my career that Hook's been ringside. You can see the fun we've have, when he's ringside with me, into the matches, we do our little low five, so Hook's the man.
Now, Powerhouse Hobbs, I've got to put you on the spot a little bit here. So Team Taz is going out to eat, and I'm figuring Taz never picks up a check.
Of course not. You can't do that. Come on now. Never that.
He's got you guys to get the check, so.
Yeah, never that. We take care of him.
All right, so hey, AEW Dark and AEW Dark Elevation on AEW YouTube. 2 outstanding shows, very fun with the commentary, everybody having fun there, insightful. Seeing you all on that, what was it like for you being a part of that? And how did being a part of those shows help you in getting to the next level?
Well, that's where I got my start, AEW Dark. Um, and just working those shows, you still get to work the live crowd. You still get to, somewhat be on TV, it's on YouTube, but you still have to work your cameras. It's the same thing, just it's the only difference is it's the vibe for me personally is a little different because it's not on a national television, but YouTube is across the world, so it's maybe somewhat a different stage, but everything you do on Dark, you can do on national TV.
How did you feel that first time being in AEW and then being a part of Dark, first time you had to go out there?
Nervous as hell, but I knew my job. My very first match was against Orange Cassidy, so I knew what his role was. He was in that feud with Chris Jericho, so I knew that I somewhat may be spotlighted in a highlight reel, working with Orange Cassidy, and everything took off from there.
And it comes full circle because now AEW Revolution, face of the Revolution ladder match, Orange Cassidy is part of this big, massive match.
Yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on him. I plan on throwing Orange off the top of the ladder and just squeezing the orange juice out of him. I'm so tired of Orange Cassidy.
Newly, freshly
Yes,
squeezed by Powerhouse.
As we like to say in the Bay, freshly squozen. So that's what we gonna do.
Hey, how did you get that break to get into AEW?
I got a call from a text from QT Marshall, and I kind of sat on the text for a couple hours because I thought somebody was ripping me, and then I answered the call back, and he was like, "Are you local to Jacksonville?" I said, "No, but I'll find a way there," and that was it. So I got my own flight, got my own hotel, own rental car, and that was it.
Do you think just your work on the indies, and also were you in California at that time too, having to come cross country?
I was in California, so it was, and the pandemic was just, the pandemic started March of 2020, and I went out to Jacksonville for AEW Dark, I believe, in July. So we were still, that pandemic was just starting, and it was a little terrifying, trying to fly across country, and there weren't any vaccines yet, so but it's sometimes you're calling, you gotta take a shot. So there's no way I would have let this opportunity pass by.
Yeah, there was a lot going on at that time. Florida was one of the, if not the only state, one of the states open to doing something. And pro wrestling it continues to be a hotbed here. Mm-hmm. So it was a good move by the Powerhouse to be able to do that.
Yeah, I would have been a fool if I would have not made that move.
Powerhouse, what was California? What was wrestling like out there? And talk a little about your training and getting started out in California.
I got started at All Pro Wrestling. I don't know if you've seen the movie Beyond the Mat. So that's where I trained. Remember the scene where the fan had spit on the guy and he was going to run up the balcony and throw him off? That's the school I originally trained at. So I was going to indie shows when I was a child, and finally got old enough and decided this is what I want to do for a living. I kind of made that decision when I was 4 years old. What I wanted to do, and never grew out of it, and went through a lot of BS to get here, but I'm here, and did a lot in the California indie scene, and it was hard to get out sometimes, but we made it out.
You grew up playing football,
basketball, and baseball.
Oh, you did all three. You did the triple threat of sports.
My grandparents didn't want us to stick in the house, and they didn't want us to hang around certain people in the neighborhood. So my grandma and grandpa always kept us busy.
Did you excel mostly in football?
Yes.
Were there any thoughts? You said you were 4 years old and you knew, hey, I love this. I want to be a part of this. Mm-hmm. But what position did you play in football, and were there thoughts of playing football in college?
I played football, so I was a free safety. That was my main thing. And sometimes I had to go both ways as a wide receiver. And, free safety, I had to do kickoff return and punt return because I was a fast dude. And I
I would have
wasn't
never
just,
thought that. You said it. You talked about being fast earlier, but we see you
I,
how big you are. I'm thinking D-line, linebacker.
I tell everybody this and I have to show everyone pictures. I wasn't a big kid growing up. I was a skinny kid. Like all this didn't happen until after I started touching the weights and genetics started kicking in. And I like tell everybody I come from a line of a thick, big bone people. So, it caught up in in the right places. So, but yeah, I was fast growing up. Like I loved doing special teams, kickoff and punt return. That was my stuff. Especially, and I'll take that back a little bit. Playing a little free safety because I could hit people and not get in trouble. So that was my thing.
Yeah, spoken like a true defensive player
Oh
right
yeah,
there.
oh yeah.
You want no offensive lineman. You don't know how to block anybody. Play
No,
defense. Get the hits to
that's it.
people.
Hit some people and not get in trouble, not get yelled at. Someone come across the middle, put my shoulder into them, and it's good.
Especially if it was someone from Woodside.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a rival. We were about what 5 miles from each other in the rival high school. Yeah, yeah,
Powerhouse, you got to tell me you had to have beaten Woodside, right? Or we're not going to talk
yeah.
about them.
So freshman year we lost to them. Sophomore year we beat them. Junior year we beat them. Senior year we lost to them. But I think my junior year was my best game against. So I think I had like 6 receptions, 120 something yards, and 2 TDs. Like I was fast. I was a little Randy Moss, man. I could jump, and that was my thing.
But you decided to go, well, first of all, good. I'm glad you had the big game against Woodside. And
Yes.
but you decided to go pro wrestling. Did you have any football offers? Did you have any thoughts of maybe trying to play ball in college or JUCO?
Yeah, I did. Had an offer from Fresno State, and it's just the time being. My grandparents were ill, and so my sister and I had to pick up a. She's older than me, so she had a full-time job, and I could pick up little part-time jobs here and there. We had to take care of them, and the way we grew up is we never bite the hand that feeds us. So my grandparents did a whole lot taking us in, and when they didn't have to, so I had to take care of them. So that was my job, and I don't regret it at all, one bit.
Everything happens for a reason, and it
Yeah,
led you to the path to where you are today. So
exactly.
right there, it's just proof positive. And you mentioned your grandparents.
Hmm.
They were big wrestling fans, or at least that's what I read. And
Oh
so
yeah,
you started watching
talk,
wrestling with your grandparents?
talking about huge. My grandparents moved from a little small town in called Holliburg, Mississippi, like in the middle of the like civil, more like in the middle of segregation. So they caught a Greyhound from Mississippi to San Francisco, and only spot they could get was above a little market, and that market was right across the street from the Cow Palace. And they would always go to shows. Go see Ray Stevens, Pat Patterson, Rocky Maivia, Pepper Gomez, Kenji Shibuya. Like I grew up hearing these names growing up, and my grandparents eventually bought a home in East Palo Alto, and wrestling was always on. Like I remember my grandparents being in our garage and talking to my aunts and uncles about when Ray Stevens and Pepper Gomez had they called him the man with the cast iron stomach, and he did some type of challenge, and Ray Stevens jumped off a ladder and injured his stomach, and when Pat Patterson turned on Ray Stevens. So wrestling was always a part of our household. My sister and I would go in my grandparents' room and get in the bed with them and watch wrestling. And my grandparents would get so into it, they yell at the TV. My grandpa has his fist clenched, so it was always on, and it just something I was drawn to, never grew out of, something I knew I wanted to do, and That's part of what got me here.
You mentioned the Cow Palace, one of the historic places. Madison
Yeah.
Square Garden, the Kiel Auditorium in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Fort Homer Hesterly Armory in Tampa, but out that in the West, it was the Cow Palace in San Francisco. Did you ever
Yeah.
get a chance to go see any wrestling out there?
Oh yeah, all the time. I got to see wrestling all the time there. Whenever any type of wrestling came to town, we went. That was our thing. Somehow, they had tickets. We didn't have a lot growing up, but we had tickets when the wrestling came to town, and I was fortunate enough to get to wrestle in that building twice for All Pro Wrestling in California. So that was a huge dream come true. Just get to be on that floor where I got to watch shows and where all these great names of the past have been. So
Did you get to see Sting wrestle there?
I did. I was actually at Super Bowl 8, and I told Jericho this story. We had worked our way down to the floor, and Jericho was wrestling Juventud Guerrera, and I slapped Jericho on the arm, and he yelled at me, and my grandma got hot. And I remember when Booker T wrestled Rick Martel there. I got to slap Booker on the shoulder, and that was a night Sting beat Hogan, and it was a night Scott Steiner turned on his brother Rick, and like that whole night I remember. Like I just close my eyes and just replay everything over that night.
And what is it like now? Because there you are working with Sting in AEW.
It's crazy. Like I first, so when Sting made his debut, I didn't know he was coming, and then I'm like, what the hell? All the snow's falling, and I see Sting pop up on the big screen, and he is walking out, and the words that came out of my mouth legit was like, "Holy F." I'm like, okay, well, what are we gonna do? Is he gonna come in here and I gotta fight him? So it's crazy. Like that was unbelievable that night.
Hey, did your grandparents get to see you wrestle, and did they get to see you wrestle at the Cow Palace?
No, they didn't. But I like to think that they're watching me every opportunity I'm in the ring. That's my belief. I feel them, I say a little something every match before I go out, directly to them, and physically they're not here, but spiritually I believe they are. So to answer your question, yes, they got to, in the way I believe they got to see me.
Well, AEW is a big weekend in Orlando, Florida. A couple more questions. We'll wrap this up. I'm curious, Powerhouse Hobbs, who in your mind that you've gone against or seen in AEW would be the second strongest wrestler in AEW? Because I know who the first one is.
Me. It better be me.
And I'm talking to him. That's right.
There we go. I tend to size people up, and I think Wardlow may be up there. That Wardlow and Wardlow and Ted. I think they got to be up there. I've yet to lock up with Keith Lee, so I have no idea, but we'll find out. We'll find out very soon.
Face of the Revolution ladder match Sunday. UCF at the Additions Financial Arena during AEW Revolution pay-per-view. FITE TV, Bleacher Report Live. You can see it then. I'm wondering, Powerhouse Hobbs, you're a family man. Am I correct?
I am.
All right.
I am.
So who are your kids' second favorite wrestler? Because I hope the first one is Powerhouse.
It is. I might be honest with you, my kids love Ricky Starks. So,
Keep it in the family. Keep it in the family.
That's Uncle Ricky to them.
All right. Well, Powerhouse, listen, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank
it's going to be an incredible weekend in Orlando, Florida. Is there anything just like to close with, say to the fans, whether they're coming to Orlando or they're going to be watching on pay-per-view or on TBS or TNT with all the shows. Because after all this, you guys are still in Florida. The Wednesday,
Yes.
March 9th, AEW Dynamite on TBS is going to be in Fort Myers, Estero at the Hertz Arena for the first time, Southwest Florida.
Well, you said it all for me, man. I appreciate you.
Powerhouse, thank you so much. Go get them.
Thank you.